This is Chris from 13th Sign, and you're listening to Misery Point Radio. Get it.
Welcome back, evil astrologers. Thanks for joining me again on Misery Point Radio. I'm beyond excited to share today's episode with you. I believe the word my UK friends would use is chuffed, because this episode has been over a year in the making. Well, more like a year in the waiting, because I have literally been awaiting the release of the album that is the topic of today's show since I first heard about it back in August of last year. Needless to say, this album has exceeded all expectations. Well, at least my expectations, which are actually normally quite low. But in this case, they were ridiculously high, and I'm still completely blown away. Last year, I spoke with guitarist Chris Hubbard from UK metal band 13th Sign after being introduced to and immediately impressed by their musicianship, technical ability, and overall sound. And during that conversation, Chris dropped a bombshell that the band was working on a new album and that album was going to be a fully mapped out concept album. And like the concept album crackhead that I am, I immediately started planning for the day that we could talk about this album in detail. And 3 short days ago, the ashes of a treacherous silence was unleashed upon the world. And I got so worked up, I had to have a moment in private to relieve my excitement, if you know what I'm saying. But, we don't need to get into that. So I invited Chris back on the show, along with drummer and primary concept architect / producer Lloyd Stringer, to give us the gory details. Lloyd and Chris broke down the entire concept for us, the grisly true story that inspired it, the process of piecing it all together, working with guest vocalists and voice actors, and crafting the soundscapes that seamlessly blend all the songs into a cohesive story. And speaking of voice actors, someone close to the show, not mentioning any names, may or may not have been featured in a small voiceover bit that will undoubtedly change the landscape of the recording industry forever. So grab your electric hammer, silence those demons within, and welcome to the spider's web that is Misery Point Radio, Chris Hubbard and Lloyd Stringer from 13th Sign. All right, now we're back for real this time, guys. Welcome back to Misery Point Radio. Thanks for joining me again. You'd never know this if I didn't say it, but we just had some audio-video hijinks because, I'm completely inept at technology. And speaking of inept at technology, I've got 2 amazing guests, one of who is probably more so inept at technology than me. So joining us again from all the way on the other side of the planet, well, not really, but, pretty fucking far away, we got Chris Hubbard, Lloyd Stringer, 13th Sign from the UK, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I feel like we just had this conversation.
Deja vu. You just repeated everything I say.
Well, it is what it is. So I'm excited that you guys are here. Thanks again for taking the time out from joining me from 8 hours in the future and talking about this epic new album that you guys have released. So, of course, last time, Chris, it was just you and I. And this time we're joined by Lloyd, who hopefully can offset, Chris's technological difficulties, but
we can but hope.
No promise.
I'll try my best. Yeah.
Awesome. So
he's been doing it for years now. He's got practice.
Well, so a year ago, Chris, you and I chatted for the first time, and I had just gotten into 13th Sign thanks to Mr. Chris Heap over there from Heaps of Metal. Shout out to Chris. Who's, of course, a very big supporter of your band as well. And over the course of the last year, as you had alluded to when we first chatted, that you had something epic in the works that you could not really talk about so much at that point, and come to find out that this album is more than anybody could have possibly hoped for. So I'm really excited to kind of break this down into what it truly, truly is. So needless to say, it's just epic. So right out of the gate, I'm going to tell you that I love this album. I'm not just blowing smoke. You know that I'm a huge fan of what you do, but this took it really, really to the next level, guys. So an outstanding job well done, to say the least.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I just realized I wasn't looking at your album. I was listening to somebody else's. So, anyway, let's also give a shout out to the rest of the chaps who aren't here with us today. But Dave, Reno, and Dale, you guys are fucking beasts. And man, Reno's vocals on this album, I mean, they're so goddamn good. They literally gave me goosebumps. Like in my pants goosebumps, but that's anyways, you didn't need that visual. Sorry, Reno, but it is what it is. It's just, this album it's powerful. It's got just a mix of all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's got the thrash, it's got the death, it's got the power, it's got the prog, it's got kind of a little bit of everything. So let's just talk about a little bit the production of it. So Lloyd, you were actually involved kind of firsthand in the production of this album, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, me and my best friend Matt, he does all our producing. We got him on board for the second album, and then it's really weird because he's not into metal at all. He's into sort of pop stuff, Radiohead and sort of Pet Shop Boys and stuff like that. So when I kind of suggested he had to go at producing some stuff for us, it was kind of like, is it going to work? Is it not? And then, we've just kind of gone from strength to strength on all the albums, I think. And this one, definitely the best one yet, production-wise. So we kind of, this one was a bit different because COVID. So we did a lot of it over kind of Zoom. So it was quite interesting. So,
So you recorded everything, and then as you were kind of mixing it and putting it all together, you were comparing notes kind of remotely?
Yeah, we can't. So he came to mine and Chris came and we recorded all the drums, and then Chris and Dale went to Matt's a different weekend, recorded in a day.
You recorded all the drums in a day?
I think it was about 6 hours we did. I did it in my slippers as well. We were setting up and I was still in my pajamas and I had my slippers on. It's like, and then we did everything really quick. So it's like, shall we do a take? And it's like, yeah, all right then. And then I just got in the zone and it was like, I don't dare change my slippers now because they might be like a good luck charm. So we just did the lot all in one go. We didn't even stop for a break. We started about 10 in the morning, didn't we? And apart from stopping for a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich, we pretty much just powered through and we were done by about 4:30.
From what I remember, we were actually done about 3:00, and we kind of finished that. It was like, right, we kind of think we're done. So we said, let's go walk the dog and kind of clear our heads a bit and see how it feels. And then we sort of came back and listened back, and we were like, other than like there was like a few missed triggers with the sensors on the kick drums, but other than that, it was just Lloyd kind of just taking out the odd extra kick drum which had been mistriggered in there. Yeah. Other than that, we just kind of sat back and goes, well, you know what? There ain't nothing wrong with this. Screw it. Let's leave it. 5 hours done.
Then on the Sunday, we did some extra acoustic bits, didn't we, for the start of Bone Collector? Yeah. You recorded some drums, which was quite amusing. We did that. And then, so we did that. And then the following weekend, Chris and Dale went to Matt's and they recorded all the guitars in a day as well.
All the rhythm guitars in a day. Just the rhythm guitars, not the lead, just all the rhythm,
Yeah, just rhythm.
That was a long day. That took longer than 5 hours, I tell you. But we kind of started there about 10 in the morning, and I think we finished about 6 at night. And other than a custard cream break halfway through with a cup of tea, we pretty much went through the whole thing. From pretty much I remember we started with Demons because we said that'd be physically a good way to kind of warm up our fingers and muscles and get a brain in gear with it, was slightly physically less demanding track. And then once we'd got Demons out of the way and done, we said, right, well, which one we can do next? Well, they're all bastards to play after that. So let's just start with the first one. Let's start with Bond and just and then we just worked our way in order through the album, right to the end. And I say we were pretty much on our knees by the end of that night, but we did get it all done in one day, which was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, and then Dave did all his bass at his house, which took him about 5 months. And then Reno did all his vocals, which took about another 5 months. And then then they emailed all their bits to Matt, who kind of put it all together at his end. And then we had a shared chat on our phone, just like a shared message, and we just had a tick list for each song. So we just kind of went through, and he'd send me the mixes, and I'd kind of say, this bit needs changing, or this bit needs adding, and then we kind of went through. And then I had a weekend at his where we did all the orchestration, and then final tweaks, final mix, and that was it done. We had a couple of sessions on. It wasn't Zoom, but it was something like that where he could stream out of Logic and I could listen to it and stuff like that. So it's kind of like Zoom, like this really. And it went ridiculously well. It was one of those things that we thought, this is going to be a nightmare, and it just wasn't. To be fair, Lloyd, more smoothly than you could imagine. It was, the time we spent mixing it, recording it, tweaking it was hardly any time at all. It was, I think, because we were so well rehearsed with it, and because I had such a clear vision in my head of how I wanted everything to be, it was just a case of right, bang, 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 done. So yeah, it was amazing how well it came together, considering that we all live miles away from each other, and everything was in lockdown. It was everything slotted together really well, which was unusual for us. Really.
Yeah, Chris, you were going to say something about that.
Well, I was just going to say, like Lloyd said, to be fair, when we first started using Matt for production on the second album, Matt was quite green as far as kind of what we would want for metal. But certainly by the last album, he was a lot more clued in and knew kind of more the kind of things we'd be looking for and technology-wise and tone-wise and that kind of thing. So certainly by the third time that we've used Matt, as Lloyd said, he's getting to the point where even before we started recording, he'd be like sending Lloyd kind of little ideas, and I've just found out this bit of tech which does this. Have a listen to this. And other little ideas and things. So by the time he got to, I'm not saying Lloyd didn't necessarily know kind of how everything should kind of work or sound or anything like that, but Matt's kind of doesn't need guiding half as much as Matt certainly would have done on Black Angel. He's a lot sharper, he's a lot more metal in the production sense than he ever was to start with, and he's certainly got, as you can hear by this one, a lot sharper, and that's probably a big part of what's helped Lloyd have, where there could have been so many different small little details that could have gone much, much worse and took far, far longer. The pair of them are so much more clued in and knowing more what the other one's thinking in advance already, that's probably helped smooth things along a lot better.
Yeah, and looking at this, these aren't exactly like short songs, right? This is
we tried our best to shrink them down.
This is
14 actually songs. We started shrinking them down because we actually said about when we were still in the songwriting stage, we were actually having a little bit of a mini panic at one point. Is this actually going to physically fit on one CD? Right. And we did actually have a little bit of a, didn't we? We were having a little bit of a kind of, is this actually going to? Yeah. Can we fit it all up? We had to do a bit of a shred and a bit of a chop down of arrangements, a lot more than they originally were. I mean, they all, whatever we took out clearly really wasn't needed, and we only took out what needed to be taken out, and it was all for the better of the songs in the long run. But we were doing a lot of trimming the fat off.
111 minutes or something like that, which is insanity. But I mean, hey, you get your money's worth. There's no doubt about that. So
one thing we were worried about was we didn't want it to sound like a long album. And when I was working on it, I kept sort of thinking like, it doesn't sound like it's 111 minutes. There's some albums I've got that are quite short, and you kind of track 5, you're thinking, is this still on? And I think with our album, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but every time I play it, I don't think it sounds like it lasts so long. Do you know what I mean? Some albums just feel really long. But I think
like
you're on to track 7 before you've even blinked.
So I think part of that, though, has to do with really overall the concept of the album itself, right? So it is a concept album. It does tell a story, a pretty in-depth story that's based in truth. And you guys have used the tools of voice actors and soundscapes to really kind of bring things together. So when you listen to it, it doesn't just feel like, okay, next song, okay, next song, okay, next song. In fact, it's really hard for somebody like me, who's a huge fan of concept albums, to pick songs that I think are just the best, or the worst, because they matter. Every song in there has a narrative, and I'm kind of one of those dorks that reads the liner notes and goes through all that stuff and kind of looks at everything about a song as I'm listening to it, especially the first few times. And I also wanted to bring that up, that your liner notes are also epic. I mean, this is not just some photocopied piece of shit paper that you had scrunched up in the back of your drawer somewhere. I mean, this is a really nicely put together liner booklet that also kind of goes with the motif and the theme of what the album is all about. I mean, each page looks kind of like a dossier of some sort or some kind of research file. So let's dig into that. I mean, it's got obviously concept albums, and I don't know where you fit, Lloyd, but obviously Chris and I are huge Queensryche dorks. But, there's also elements of, say, King Diamond, Coroner Death, Old Metallica, Lamb of God, and so many different elements going in there, plus the storytelling element. Tell us then about kind of the original story that this is based off, and how did you first decide that you wanted to use that story to craft an album off of?
So for starters, this is all good. I'll sit back. I'll see in 20 minutes.
It's based, it's based on, like you say, it's a true story about serial killers that kind of hit the news in the sort of late 90s. And
in the UK.
And it was just a massive, massive story. And at the time, I remember sort of taking a real interest in this story. And then I've always wanted to do a concept album. Massive Queensryche fan.
Cool.
Big Rush fan as well. I don't really like the sort of metal that we play. I'm much more into Queensryche, Faith Sworn, and that kind of stuff. So, I've always wanted to do a concept album. And then when our old singer left, because he used to write a few lyrics, and when Reno joined, Reno wasn't really, well, I'd already written most of it by then anyway, but it was kind of I sort of already decided I'd take on a bit more lyric writing. And then obviously writing an album worth of lyrics with no inspiration is quite hard. So I thought now's the time to do the whole concept thing. And I think having the concept in some ways made it easier to write, because obviously the story's already there. And there's loads of books and documentaries and stuff you can watch on YouTube and things, which kind of gave extra ideas. And I rubbed the odd line here and there. So that kind of helped. I think, it just seemed like the right time to do a concept, really. And I think the more we got involved in it, the more we kind of got into it. And it, in some ways, it helped shape the songs. And it made it difficult to write in some ways, because normally we'd write, say, 10, 12 songs. Then when we recorded them, pick an order. Whereas the thing we found difficult was kind of, right, track 3, that's this part in the story. We need a song that's like this. And it kind of made it more tricky to kind of actually compose the songs. But it also gave us quite a lot of a guideline that we had to kind of stick to. So it was definitely more of a challenge, I think. But I think
Did
it was
you
also
start with, say, like an outline of the whole story and then craft the music after that? Or did you find yourself having music and now I need to kind of fit the lyrics to fit this spot? I'm looking kind of at the lineage.
I kind of a bit of both, really. I kind of I did all my research and I kind of mapped out kind of 15 ideas, which would eventually become the kind of 15 songs. And then we kind of roughly went through it with Chris, and then we sort of said, well, this song's going to be a bit of a love song. This one's going to be about sort of a murder. This one's going to be the court case. And then we kind of worked with it from there. And I wrote some of the lyrics before the music, and Chris had come up with some ideas. And then we'd say, well, that idea works with that, but that's too aggressive for that part. So we just tweaked it. And then we got to the point where I just let Chris write the songs, and then I wrote the lyrics, and then I kind of chopped them up on GarageBand and just really crudely edited them in like doubled bits, took bits out and sent in bits back and said, this is great, but we need a new chorus, which is going to fit these words. And then Chris changed some of the riffs to fit the words. And so we kind of changed that. We changed how we went about it sort of during it, didn't we? And I think that worked a lot better normally with our album. Say again?
It was a lot more fluent. We had to be a lot more kind of compromised. There was a lot less kind of standard rules like we've kind of had before. It was not really rules, but we had to be a lot more kind of moving in and out. Does this bit works really good, but you say, so that'd have to be changed. That'd have to be changed. And it was, I think, what I've said with other people before, I think the biggest challenge, which you kind of half hinted at, was you've got to kind of, like you said, if you're writing a normal album with 12 songs on, you get to say, right, that's a cracking opening track, that's what we're going to open with. But we already had to kind of predetermine, because of the lyrics and which music kind of fitted well with the lyrics and the chorus and whatever. We had to kind of predetermine which songs were in which order really very early on. And I think one of the things we were both concerned about was, it might work well as far as the concept, but as purely as someone listening to an album, even if there was no concept, would those songs, would track number 1 make a good opener? Would track 2 sound as a good track 2? Would it build to a crescendo like you would hope an album does? and somehow we managed to fluke it, and it worked bang on.
Yeah, and it's weird because as we wrote it, our opinions changed. So Bond of Wicked Blood was the first song we actually wrote, wasn't it? And we played that with like all the old band members. And then when we came to recording it, because we've been sort of playing it for 5 years, we'd all gone off it and thought, oh, actually, shall we sort of change it? Is it good enough? And then when we finished recording it and listened to it back, it was like, wow, why did we have doubts? That's a brilliant album opener. So we kind of changed our mind as we went through. But yeah, it was.
I think remember Silent Witness. That was one of the early ones as well. We kind of got up to where it changes with the clean part at the end of the solo. We'd kind of got that first block written really early.
Yeah,
and then it was almost
kind of left it, didn't we?
Yeah, it was about another year or so before it got kind of finished off. At least a year before it got finished off, and there was lots of, like you say, kind of bits of songs where Lloyd knew that bit definitely had to go with that set of lyrics and this bit. But the rest of the songs were very kind of incomplete, and there'd be like little bits kind of jigsawed on now and again with a little bit, or that bit will work with that, or that bit will work with that bit. And it was very, it was like a jigsaw. There were just so many little pieces being continually little tagged on until it all finally fit together.
Yeah.
And then when we got it how we thought was right, we'd then take it to the rest of the band. They'd learn it, we'd play through it, and then we'd be like, oh no. So this bit's way too long. Like, we need something here. And then when we were kind of thinking, this bit, we need a circle bit going. What kind of thing can we add to this? And then we kind of changed everything again, and then more tweaking. And so, yeah.
Because that's something else with the writing process that we'd never done before, which sounds bonkers probably to a lot of people. But I don't think we've ever actually written a song with the 5 guys in a room before. It's always kind of been like 2 or 3 of us had kind of written a bit, and the other guys would just kind of get given a track. Right, there you go. Like, learn that. That's the recording, and that would be kind of like it going into recording. And once we sort of started doing, I think it was more out of necessity. I don't know whether we necessarily wanted to do it or chose to do it, but when we started to get the new guys in the band, I think we were kind of one of the early practices with all 5 guys. And we were sort of saying, well, okay, what are we going to practice next? And it was like, well, come on, let's just try a new one. It's like, really? Should we? Yeah, go on, try a new one. And so we then would work through one of the new tracks and be like, wow, that sounds brilliant, except for that bit. That bit doesn't work. And like Lloyd said, we then started tweaking it. Not only we'd already been tweaking it in the concept listening sense, but now we're doing it in the live situation, the practice situation. And as you saw, so all the songs kind of gradually morphed and tweaked that little bit extra again. But again, it made them better. And so we just said, well, quite right. If this is working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we then started going through all the songs, and some needed changing more than others, but all the little tweaks that worked live, helped to benefit the writing process and the recording process.
Yeah, awesome. So now we're going to take a listen to one of these songs, and a little later in the show, we're going to be talking about why this particular song was chosen as the first single, as well as for a video. So here it is. This one's called Electric Hammer. Children of schizophrenia have a 1 in 10 chance of becoming schizophrenic. Children of depressives are far more likely to suffer from mental illness. Children of both have very little hope of living a normal life.
He would rock her head for hours, gazing at the world, almost like he was not a part of it.
So the majority of these songs were written, at least in their skeletal form, quite some time ago.
Yeah, we started about 5 years ago. We started, and then we lost a singer, then we lost a bass player, and then it took so long to find a replacement singer.
Yeah,
that everything just kind of got put on hold. So me and Chris carried on writing, but we live 120 miles away from each other, so we'd kind of get together every 3 months, and we'd kind of sit in my lounge and just kind of go through what we've got, and I'll just kind of do finger drums and garage band along to the riffs, and we kind of did really rough recordings. And then, not having a singer, I kind of worked out all the vocal melodies and stuff, and I'm a terrible singer. Anyone in the band will tell you that. But we managed to get our old singer up to record some demos, which helped quite a bit.
I think Chris would say that you're a fantastic singer, and he disagrees with you.
All I can say is that everybody should behold at some. I'll tell you what, if you want a little factoid, you can have a guest. There's Lloyd did some guest vocals on the album, but you've got to guess which track.
Yeah, Reno really struggled with a bit, which is really easy. So I did a guide track at his house when we were doing it, and like I say, I'm terrible. And Reno liked it so much he kept it in. So I thought, well, if we're going to keep it in, I'm going to do it. So I did re-record it at home, but. So being the world's worst singer, I ended up doing backing vocals on one song. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, speaking of vocalists then, so you guys had, in addition to hiring some people to do some kind of cool soundscapes and things like that and little voiceover tidbits, you also worked with some guest vocalists. What I wanted to know is, did you have to coach them on their vocal parts, or did you lay down a ghost track and then they kind of recorded over your ghost tracks? How did you get them to learn the song, learn the melody? Because those tracks that they're singing over, that's not like slow, easy. I mean, we're talking some of that stuff is over really fast rhythms and syncopated rhythms. So I'm curious how you got those performances, because I know they weren't sitting there just hanging out with you in your studio.
No, so what happened, as well as 13th Sign, I play in a wedding covers band as well. We do sort of beer festivals, weddings, proms, stuff like that. And the singer in that band, well, we've not had any funerals yet, but if you know anyone, I can give you our details.
I know a few people.
But so our singer in that band, who's also one of my best friends from school, it's his wife that sings on Walls of Jericho, and she is a West End performer. She's like a proper sort of famous star who has starred in she's played all over the world. She's done My Fair Lady in Italy. She starred in Little Voice. She's been in Les Miserables, however you pronounce it. Dirty Dancing. That's it. Yeah, she had a big role in that. She was in the film with Russell Crowe, so she is pretty well known. Yeah, and she. So I years ago, I was at I think I was at Matt's wedding actually, and I said to her, "Oh, would you be up for doing some vocals?" And again, she's not into metal at all. She's sort of Whitney Houston, Madonna, big fan, that kind of stuff. So she was like, "Yeah, I'd be up for that. That would be a bit of a laugh," sort of thing. So I sent her the guide vocal, which Reno did. So I kind of sang it to Reno. Reno kind of sang it on this guide vocal.
Better.
And I said, and I sent it to her. And only slightly, but yeah. So, and I sent her the song, and she kept kind of forgetting to do it, and she was busy and stuff. And then I emailed her, and I just said, "Oh, we really need this sort of today. If you can have a look at it." She hadn't even looked at it, and I sent her a copy of Sweet Sister Mary and said, "This is the kind of vibe we're after." And about an hour later, she just sent me a text saying, "Yeah, I've done it. Let me know if it's all right." And that was it. I didn't even speak to her through the whole thing. And she literally heard our song, did about 4 takes, just sent me them and said, like, "Yeah, is that all right?" And it was like, "Is that all right?" That's like amazing. It's completely blew. Because I wasn't sure how it would be. Because obviously with her not ever doing any metal, I didn't know how her voice would kind of suit it. And I didn't know if she'd really, when she actually got down to it, if she'd actually want to do it or not. But yeah, she just absolutely nailed it. And it was like,
and did you have like the official backing tracks, for her?
Yeah. Yeah. So she had the full sort of proper studio version. It wasn't completely mixed and it didn't have Reno's vocals on, but she had that, and Reno did like a rough guide track. So she kind of copied that pretty much as he did it, but then sort of embellished it a little bit. But,
and what is her name?
Nancy Sullivan. So,
cool. Props to you, Nancy, for fucking knocking it out of the park there. Well, these guys are playing characters, so give us the rundown. Who are the characters, quote unquote, per se? I picked up Golden Boy, right? And then I picked up, there's some kind of a, I don't know, we'll say streetwalker type turned partner. I picked up on that. I picked up some kind of informant, right? Leech, I want to say. So kind of give us the rundown on the characters and just the baseline of the story.
So
I think, Lloyd, you're just going to have to spill the beans there. You're just going to have to spill the beans. He's been
gotta do it, man.
Get on with it.
So it's mainly about Fred and Rose West. I don't know if you're familiar with their crimes over in America, but basically, Fred West was a sort of local country boy, like a country bumpkin that had a very troubled upbringing. So the first couple of songs are about his childhood,
right?
And then he sort of ran away from home and moved to Scotland and sort of tried to set up a new life over there with which is what Demons Within is all about. And he got married, and that didn't work out. So he kind of went back to where he was from, and then met his then future wife, Rose West, who she's kind of referred to as a spider kind of throughout. So he's the golden boy. He was his mother's golden boy, even though he was an absolute, evil, sort of personified evil. But so we kind of used that to refer to him. And then, the sort of all the spider connotations, that's his then wife, Rose West. And it's them that committed all the crimes. So you've kind of got the first couple of songs are about his upbringing, then the next couple are about her upbringing, and then how they kind of get together. And then it's kind of goes on to the crimes, and then it's got like the court case, and then the aftermath, and then how their kind of families cope with it afterwards. So it's not really about the murders. It's about why they made murders and how they got together and why they did what they did and what kind of happened afterwards and stuff like that. So, and
there's a big undertone to do with, say, examining the mental illness side of things, the schizophrenia. And that is a predominant theme lyrically that you see where they're hitting on, as far as the psychology behind what they did.
Yeah, because it's strange. Like the more most people just know about the story and sort of their house and how they hid all the bodies in the basement, and most people don't really know anything, kind of the backstory. But so from her side of the family, her mum was depressive and her dad was a paranoid schizophrenic. And then when her mum was pregnant with her, she had ECT, which is what Electric Hammer's about. So she obviously had terrible genes, and him very similar. So you kind of got these two people that have both had really troubled starts. And then he had motorcycle accident, which damaged his brain, and he had plates, which is what impulse control's about. So you've got these two people that have already starting at a bad place, and then things happening, and then them getting together and then making each other even worse. And it's kind of all about that, and how stuff that happened to them kind of merged on and kind of accelerated into these two sort of serial killers, and then how their relationship kind of changed, because they had a big pact of silence, and the idea was that he would take the rap for all the crimes, so she would get off free. But then he committed suicide, and then they got evidence that she was actually involved, and then but she still, even to this day, she hasn't admitted to any of the murders. She still denies all of it, and there's still, they think, still up to 70 victims that they don't know about and they've never found. So that's what the kind of last song was about. And then their family, because they had children, and it's all about the children didn't know. And then obviously as soon as everything was found out, all of a sudden they realised, I mean, they knew their sort of upbringing was horrific, but they kind of accepted it because that was all they knew. So that last song was kind of their point of view, and them sort of feeling guilty for still loving their parents, even though they've kind of now realised what they did, and how they kind of still see their genes and they look in the mirror and things like that. And it's all, yeah, it's kind of covers all the backgrounds. None of it's really about the killings or the attacks or anything. It's all about kind of before and after almost.
Sure, kind of dealing with the fallout even. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting take on it, rather than what we didn't want. We didn't want an album to be classified as like a gory murder metal kind of naff, cheesy sort of thing. So
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And as far as, for instance, the soundscapes and the sound effects and the background and the locales, was any of that kind of done on a location, or is that just stuff that you have?
No, that's all
audio.
Yeah, it's all created. Me and Matt created it, and we either did it at his house and just kind of did stuff, or we recorded bits. So, for example, the choking at the start on the album and the intro, that's just me in my bathroom sort of making a choking noise.
Hey, dude, you don't need to tell me what you're making choking sounds in the bathroom for.
He does it most nights.
Yeah, so yeah, it's everything has just been, I mean, we've got some sort of samples off the internet and things like that, but most of it we kind of just created and yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Kind of, Matt's brilliant and stuff like that. I say, Matt, I want something that sounds a bit like this. And he'll just go, oh, is this all right? And he'll just do some plugins to get on his keyboard, and it'll be like, yeah, that's everything that I wanted, like spot on, exactly how I wanted it. So
yeah. The map on the back of the inlay card, it seems to be indicative kind of locations where maybe crimes were.
Yeah, we wanted to make it. I wanted to give enough clues in the booklet so people could work it out without it being too obvious. I didn't want it to be like, oh, well, this is obviously this is obviously that. So that's why we didn't include any names. But I wanted to leave enough details in so that if people were kind of familiar with the story, they might sort of see that and think, oh, that's based there. Oh, I wonder if that's so-and-so. And then they might look further on and say, oh, it must be that because this kind of thing. So the idea was that we were kind of leaving clues.
I kind of felt like I was going on a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, that was the plan, really.
Yeah. But I didn't win anything.
I thought we'd give it away with the song Leach, because at the start of the song it gives her name away, and if you googled Janet Leach, you'd probably find everything you need to know straight away. So,
oh, damn it! So there was a prize.
You missed an easy one.
I get it. Well, the prize is that I get to listen to that album now over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So probably kind of like listening to an album as you're recording it. So now that it's out, now that it's physically released, and you've got this fine product on the marketplace, do you have the same feeling about it as now people are hearing it? Are you as excited about it now as you were when you kind of started the project?
Yeah, probably even more so, because I was a bit worried about it, because it's been my idea and my sort of passion for ages, and I've kind of talked everyone into going along, and I was really worried that we'd finish it and everyone would sit back and go, it's a bit shit, that. So I'm really glad that it kind of, everyone's saying it exceeded their expectations. And one of the things that I'm really pleased with is you have an idea in your head of exactly how you want something to sound, and it never sounds like it. It's like if you're a painter, you imagine, I'm going to paint this picture, it's going to be brilliant, and you do it and you stand back and you think, no, it's not that great. And with this, I was really worried that it just wouldn't be as good as I thought it was. And obviously it's been in my head for 5 years, and then when it was all finished, it was like, that's exactly how I pictured it, if not a little bit better. So now it's out. It's just good to be able to let other people share it and say, you know, that thing I've been working on,
right,
here it is, have a listen. And so far, everyone's loved it, which is amazing. I couldn't be happier with how it's turned out, and I can't stop listening to it myself now. Even I was worried when we were doing it that I'd get sick of it, because obviously doing all the fine tuning and listening to it to pick faults and tweaking it, I was worried that I was going to ruin it for myself.
Yeah, and Chris, when you and I were first talking, you had said to me that you were really excited about this project, and that it was going to be concept, and that it was even farther of a concept beyond, say, Mindcrime, because the things that you were going to be talking about were based in actuality. So now that you've been through this process with this album, what's your take on it?
Echoing a lot of what Lloyd said. As Lloyd gave the analogy of a painting. Well, I mean, just more direct with previous albums we've done. As you're going through the writing process and the recording process, you're thinking that's the nuts. That's cracking. That's bang on. And it's only then when it's finished, the CD's there in your hand, you put it in the play, and you sit back and listen, and you invariably sit and go, yeah, that bit's good, but why did that bit not quite work out? Tell you what, I'll try something a little bit different next time. And usually listen back, I find on how good it is, I'm probably feeling bang on happy with about, say, 60-70% if I'm lucky. And there's always kind of something to find a hole in. That just wasn't quite, why did that not work out as I'd hoped? And if nothing else, it gives you kind of ideas to go working ahead on the next one and other ideas. But this one, like Lloyd said, I would genuinely say it must be at least 95% exactly the way we had it in our heads. And that's because we tend to set ourselves pretty high standards, and it's just pretty much damn bang on where we imagined it would be, the way it would sound. And the production, obviously, as we talked about before, is a huge part of helping that, because usually you kind of go, should have put a bit more bass on that. We should have done a bit more of this. This, you sit back and listen to it. It's like, that's damn bang on. So as far as we're happy with it, yeah, it's. I mean, I'm still listening to it fairly regularly, which, like Lloyd said, you'd think by now we'd be sick and tired of hearing it. But it's very easy on the ears. I don't know whether I'd quite say we'd outdone Mindcrime just because it's factual lyrics as opposed to fictional lyrics. I wouldn't like to think anything's going to outdo Mindcrime, but the comparisons was obviously, as we know, was certainly there, and that's where the influences were. And again, by the fact of we're just saying about the soundscapes and the characterization and how that's worked out so well and blended the songs together and made it a much more complete album rather than individual songs. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also kind of a, not in terms of vocal style, but I really got kind of a hint of, say, Merciful Fate, kind of King Diamond in that era as well, with kind of the way that just some of the characters were brought out, and that there's a very kind of a dark feel to the album as well. Mindcrime's is a fantastic album. I wouldn't necessarily call it a dark album, but something like Abigail, for instance, is very dark and very deep. It kind of goes into this personal story backgrounds and things like that, which it kind of evoked that for me as well.
I can say, yeah, talking about the whole darkness, yeah, we knew this was going to be dark. Like some of the contents of some of the songs, like what they're actually about is pretty disturbing as you can get, I think. So yeah, we kind of wanted it to have a bit of a dark, kind of eerie, almost kind of, I don't know, kind of a, just kind of a dark.
I suppose for style more like kind of Sanctuary, Mirror Black, kind of that kind of creepiness.
Yeah, creepy. That's the word.
Kind of really,
kind of
a very gothic
chilling
creepiness.
We wanted it to be a bit chilling. Like we did have some samples that we ended up not using, but some of the bits, they were a little bit like, oh, that bit's meant to be such and such, and I'm not sure I want to replicate that.
Yeah, that's
some of it is a bit. When you tell people what some of the songs are about, like, and some of because a lot of the lines that really kind of link to the story, and it's not pleasant, really not pleasant. Like, luckily, Reno doesn't really have a clue what he's singing.
I think I remember when we talked to you last time, Mike, about saying about all the lyrics that Lloyd had done, there was like every single line has a particular relevance to a particular fact or a part of the whole story, which it does, which is what makes the lyrics just incredible. But obviously, you literally got, like, say, one line is trying to describe kind of probably like a far big part of it, but there's only enough room. You've got to squeeze it in some way, shape, or form, but in a very condensed form.
Sure.
If anybody would like to learn the more gory details, next time we play a gig in about 2028, if someone would like to have a chat with Lloyd and say, Lloyd, would you mind explaining this particular line in this song? And he'll quite happily sit there for 20 minutes and not bore them, but he'll tell them all the details until they vomit on the floor.
Well, it's an education, right? That might end up in
it taught me a lesson.
I do like the Sanctuary reference though, because that's probably more spot on for sure. And now you've got me thinking about Sanctuary, which is just awesome. I'm curious then, moving on from the content kind of stuff. So you decided to release a single and a video for Electric Hammer, and knowing where that now, as I listen to this, fits kind of in the storyline. What was the decision behind releasing that album as the single?
I think it was a couple of things. Firstly, we didn't want to give too much of the story away. So it was always going to have to be a song fairly near the start of the album. But also, I think everyone in the band, apart from Chris, just loves it. Chris hates it, but we all think it's just brilliant.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
You used to hate it. It's grown on you, isn't it?
I don't hate it. It's my least favourite.
It's his least favourite, yeah. But we released a little teaser of it because I loved it from the get-go. So I released a little teaser of it on YouTube just when we'd started mixing it, and it had such a positive response. It was like, yeah, let's go for it. But yeah, it's weird because Chris has always wanted to write a song like sort of the horoscope sort of era overkill, and he's never managed it. And then we finally written a song which I think is pure overkill, and he don't like it. I don't know why, but yeah, the rest of the band absolutely loved it, and it was quite a good one to do a video to. We thought the whole idea of all the electrical sounds and like strobe lights, we thought it would be fairly straightforward to kind of replicate that in a video. So yeah.
And there's also the fact that the intro is quite short and blunt, which if you're going to be releasing a video that a lot of people may not have heard us before, to try and grab people's attention really quick, which in modern media day you kind of have to. There's a lot of what I would certainly say are better songs on the album, but they have got a longer, more drawn out intro, which if people are flicking through on Facebook, they're probably going to go, oh yeah, okay, get on with it. Whereas that one does, admittedly, 3 chords of wallop, you're into the song. So it did have that benefit, as well as what Lloyd said, the visual thing with being able to interpret the electric shock therapy into the imagery as well. So it was a good choice for a video, even if there was others that would have been better.
I think also
that I personally really like the song, and especially I guess the chorus, because I love the Overkill comparison, because that chorus is fast as fuck. I mean, the drumming is awesome, Lloyd, for sure. I love just a super fast gallopy guitar. So it's just really catchy. Like of all the songs on there, I mean, the chorus to that one really just kind of stands out because it's easy to kind of sing to, I think.
Yeah, that's another reason we thought it would be good. It's one that you can hear once and you can kind of, just shout Electric Hammer with everyone. That we thought it'd be quite a good live one that people can get into sort of the first time they hear it, rather than a song you have to know really well. So that as well.
Plus, when you play it live, you could have tasers in the audience.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Shoot those out into the front and have some strobe lights going, and I think it would be an amazing live effect that you guys should definitely film.
Certainly hit the papers, I think.
Release form or something like that.
There's obviously one thing that would be missing from live with that song.
Yeah.
Which would be your good self.
Yeah, the quality voice acting that you've already spoken about.
Now, for those of you who are not, young Mike here has been very shy, because for those of you that wouldn't know, the vocal guest on Electric Hammer, who is our Dr. X, is indeed young Mr. Mike Peacock, Simon.
What? Yeah, I was.
You mean you didn't know?
I didn't know. I had no idea. I kind of felt a presence one night when I was sleeping, and there was a microphone.
That wasn't me.
Places unknown, but Yeah, so that was a fun process, by the way. I wasn't planning on going down that rabbit hole, but now that we're talking about it, the idea of having kind of voice actors, I think was kind of fun. And much like yourself, Chris, you're not necessarily a fan of, for whatever reason, that song being your favorite. But I'm very critical of the way I sound on media, and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like me. It's kind of weird. You got all these guys with like American accents on an album from the UK, which was kind of awesome to kind of see, because it broke up the monotony of what people's voices sound like sometimes. But it was a cool process, and thanks for asking me to do that. I had a blast, and I probably overthought it, but tried to put myself in that mindset of, oh my God, what am I doing here? What's my motivation? Where's my fucking acting coach? I got nothing. All right. So, thanks for actually using it. And it's probably going to hurt your album sales. So
at least we know who to blame.
What's that?
At least we'll know who to blame.
Yeah. Well, it's all is fair in love and bad voice acting. So I don't know. I think that song, though, personal feelings for it aside, is a good song, and I like the video. The production is awesome. How was it, shooting that video? I mean, knowing that you guys can bang out guitar tracks and drum tracks in record time, did you one day this video too?
Yeah, the video. We just turned up about 10 o'clock, wasn't it, in the morning, in this sort of barn in deepest, darkest Norfolk. And the chap that did it, Sean from Loki Films, he just kind of wheeled in this box with like all this camera gear and all these lights. We just set it up, went through it, I think 16 times, and then that was it. We were done by about 4 o'clock, weren't we? And then he just sort of edited it and sent it. It was a really nice process, because normally everything we do, we kind of call in favors, whereas this one we didn't. We just kind of we splashed out a bit of cash, and we said, right, we're going to get someone good. So we kind of researched someone good, booked him in, and he was amazing. He just turned up, shot it, went home, and then 2 weeks later, that was the final edit. We didn't even have any tweaks. He just said, how's this? It's like, yeah, that's amazing. That's exactly what we wanted.
The interesting thing from my perspective with the location was we'd been looking for a location to shoot a proper video again for a long time, and we're talking like at least a couple of years, haven't we? And everywhere we'd looked had just come up empty. And we were thinking, this can't be normal. I mean, there must be places around that you can, a friend says, I've got this place here, or you can hire somewhere for the day, or you'd think there'd be somewhere. No, I mean, literally we were calling and checking out places kind of all around the country. No, couldn't find anywhere. And we were starting to get desperate and thinking, we need this soon. What on earth are we going to do? And the barn in question is just kind of like on one of my sort of duties with my day job. And it was literally about a couple of weeks before we had to sort of like make a decision whether we're going to do it yay or no. And I just asked a couple of questions, and they just said, yeah, you use the old barn over there if you want. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Now, we sort of think like the old barn, thought it's not necessarily going to look great. There's probably umpteen different places which would look far, far better for a music video than this. But we were just out of options. We're beggars couldn't be choosers. We had no choice. So it was like, yep, that'll do. Take it. Go with it. Fine. And then by the time Sean turned up, he literally sets up a few lights, quick smoke machine. You look at the drainage thing on the floor where they probably, drain the water and the cow shit and God knows what else out from the bottom of the barn. And you're looking down this camera lens and you're thinking, hey, that looks incredible. How come this manky old barn that we got lucky with just off the top of our heads, and all of a sudden we've got something that genuinely looks like a proper good location. We were just so lucky with it.
Yeah, it's actually I feel like it's a great location, and it also kind of evokes imagery of a place where somebody might be, say, I don't know, murdered, killed, dead, made to not be alive. Yeah. So I think it kind of fit that whole theme pretty good. It was dark, it was eerie, and I don't know. I mean, now that I've seen it, if I took that image of how now I see that song in my head visually, and you were to put it somewhere else, I don't know if my brain could handle it. I mean, it fit that particular song so well.
It did work out just incredibly well.
Yeah. Luck of the draw, huh?
Yeah.
So now that you've got the album out, you've got the video out, are you going to release more videos? I mean, you can't play any shows until, like you said, 2028, at least.
At the earliest, obviously.
So there's got to be something else that you can do as far as promoting the album or kind of keeping it going. What's kind of in the framework?
So we've got a lyric video for Bone Collector, which we're going to be releasing in a few weeks. We're not quite sure yet. And then we're hoping probably early next year to do another proper video for, with maybe Thinking Spider's Web at the moment. But that will be a bit like the Electric Hammer video, but we're going to have like cutscenes. We're going to have like a narrative going on as well. So it's kind of going to take a bit more planning and a bit more location hunting. But we're aiming to do another proper video there because we had such a good time doing it. And when you look back when we're all old and showing our grandkids, it's great to have proper videos rather than sort of cheapy ones. So I think we're going to
when you're sitting your grandchildren on your lap, telling them this family-friendly
I'm not telling what it's about.
Serial killers and streetwalkers and mental illness. You say, "Listen here, little Timmy, I've got the story for you," and then of course that will then start him down the road of depravity. I think that's awesome. So clearly you've already thought this through, that there's got to be some level of future engagement because the times that we're at, it's just, I mean, it's risky enough to release a project right now without being able to live support it. So the question now becomes, how do you keep people interested and engaged before you can get on to the next project?
Yeah, so it's just videos and we're going to just try and keep busy. Dave and Rena were on about starting writing the next album, but I need a break.
yeah, my brain's dead. I mean, even more than normal.
Yeah, and that's saying something. It'd be nice to get out and do some gigs and play this album while it's new. But yeah, I'm knowing how long it takes us to get stuff written and recorded and done. I think come Christmas, I'll be ready for looking at the next album.
Sure.
I've got some good concept ideas that I need to run by Chris.
And what about streaming events or, kind of band, sessions where you guys just kind of hang out on the interwebs and let people fire random questions at you?
Yeah, we don't tend to do anything like that. Maybe we should. I've not really seen anyone since we did the video. We got together once for like a listening party and that was it. I've not really spoke to anyone else since.
To be fair, we've been working so hard building up to the release of this that I know it probably sounds a bit lazy, but actually be able to have like a couple of weeks off of not necessarily thinking everything 100% about the band right at the minute will actually be quite nice. Just have just a few weeks off and just like, oh, it's done. We actually managed to live to see this thing released. That's good. And we can just chill back and relax just for a few weeks, just to kind of let things calm down and see what happens.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a well-deserved break because, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the band, but this album exceeded my expectations, and as everybody should know, really everybody gauges their success off of my level of expectation and acceptance. So, as well it should be. The tides rise and fall based off Misery Point Radio, clearly. But I mean it's a fantastic, dare I say, masterpiece.
Oh,
it's
you go ahead and say it, boy. You say it, shout it, shout it. Go on.
So I mean, I don't have enough praise that I can heap upon you to the point where it becomes uncomfortable. But that's
it won't become uncomfortable. Don't you worry about that. You carry on.
Nice. I can always mute my mic. No, thank you guys for hanging out today and talking about the album and probably going deeper into the story than you initially wanted to. But I had to do my journalism-y part and kind of twist your arm to get those fine details. And just so everybody knows, there's way more to the storyline than even we got into.
Way more. Yeah.
It's going to take a few listens before you really kind of get it. But then I promise you, even though you have to do this thing called reading, check out the liner notes and kind of follow along with everything because it really helps stuff sink in, and then you'll get to know kind of the pieces start to fit together. And so
this is why streaming's a bit bad. I think with a concept album you need the book and you need to listen to it with your headphones on. You need to flick through, and one thing that I don't like about streaming is people will probably just, I'll have a listen to track 6. And it needs to be listened to in its entirety. You need to set aside, an hour and a bit and crack open a beer and get your headphones on and get the book out. And you need to give it time, I think, and like try and digest it to really get into it. And I think if people do make that effort and do get into the story, I think it will make it so much sort of different sort of listening experience, knowing what's actually happening rather than, here's a song, here's another song.
Sure.
Actually knowing, because my brother, he knows the story, but he didn't really know any of the lyrics, and I got him to proofread the booklet, and I think when he read it, it was like, I know what that one's about now. But rather than just thinking, I like that song, it was like, that's sang from the point of view of this, and that's a bit disturbing. So I think it changed it for him. So I think other people that don't even know anything about it, I think it would, massively change how they listen to it.
Listening
maybe not for the best.
will either turn you into an intellectual or make you realize that you have no intellect. Either way, it's one of the two. No, man, job well done, chaps. Anything else that you want to say to the people out there in podcast land? Any final thoughts you want to leave us with today?
Just have a listen and let us know what you think. And if you like it, buy a T-shirt or buy a copy, or help support local bands, because we get 0.0006p for every stream. So if you do like it, help us out.
Buy the
and tell your friends.
album.
Tell your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair,
if you have one friend, tell them 1,000 times.
Yeah, we're not in it to make money. We just enjoy doing it, and we just want people to hear it. Now it's done. We just want people to listen to it and like it. And so far, everyone has liked it. So
and
we just want people to kind of like it and appreciate, the amount of work that certainly Lloyd has put in and we've all put in. And I think if you do give it just a fair good listen, it really is quite an absorbing listen, and you can sit back and say, wow, that really is, for an underground band, that really is quite a hell of an achievement, and we're bloody proud of it.
Yeah, and you should be. So tell everybody where they can find your music, how they can order physical stuff, where they can stream the digital stuff, where they can buy your merch, and how do they stalk you on social media?
So everything's for sale on our Bandcamp page. So if they Google 13th Sign Bandcamp, they can buy merch and physical stuff. We've got some new T-shirts for the song Demons Within, which are pretty swanky. And other than that, it's on all streaming platforms. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. It's everywhere. So it's not hard to find, much to Chris's disgust.
No.
Awesome.
It is everywhere. And YouTube. Everywhere. Someone's already ripped it to YouTube, I've seen. So you can listen to it on YouTube.
Thank you, Pirates.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and the rest of you, just join me in thanking Chris Hubbard, Lloyd Stringer, 13th Sign from the UK. Check out their new album. Check out their old albums. Check them out everywhere you can possibly check them out. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an absolute blast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Cheers, Mike. Good to see you again.
Do yourselves a favor and go buy this album right now. If you're a fan of metal, I promise it delivers. Thanks again to Chris and Lloyd for stopping by, and thanks, of course, to all of you for hanging out today as well. Always appreciate the support. And please, if you want to continue to support Misery Point Radio, follow the show on all the social media propaganda sites. Like, follow, share, all that good stuff. And subscribe to the show on your favorite streaming platform. Misery Point Radio is also a part of the Spoilerverse, so check out spoilerverse.com for all your pop culture needs. And we're also a part of the SJ Network at s-j-network.com. Get a hold of publicist Steve Joyner if you're an artist looking for some epic level promotion. Now, we're going to take this out with one more song from 13th Sign's new album, The Ashes of a Treacherous Silence. This one's called Walls of Jericho.